Hello, welcome to another weekly update. Welcome to another week. I hope you're doing well. A couple of things to talk through this week. Some changes to Microsoft Graph. It's the start of another month, so there is another What's New in Microsoft Teams blog post to go through, and I've been doing some content as well. So let's get into it. So first thing to talk about is a interview that I did with Mary Jo Foley. And this was all about building Microsoft Teams apps. This was a really fun interview to do. Mary Jo is a great interviewer. She's it's a lot of fun talking with her, and she's very knowledgeable as well. And so this was a really fun one to put together. We talked through all sorts of things. We talked through building on Microsoft Teams. We talked about pro code, talked about no code. We talked about Azure. We talked about the Power Platform. We talked about ACS. We even talked a bit about in-person conferencing. So lots of things covered, and you can watch all this for free. Well, it's audio only, so you can listen to it all for free. So I'll put a link in there to the petri.com site, which is hosting the podcast, and there's also a full transcript as well. There was an issue with the recording. So basically, like the first time the recording got published, they used like the wrong audio for it, so it wasn't my voice, it was someone else's interview. So if you get that, so if it sounds like it's not me, and I'm not talking about Microsoft Teams development, then do a hard refresh, like clear cache out, try and get it again, and reach out to them if you get any problems. But it's all been fixed. It's just there's some like caches that need to work through to kind of solve that stuff. So go check that out. That was really good, fun to do, and it's things like that are always good because they force me anyway to really think about what I want to say and make some notes and distill that thinking down, so it turns into quite a concise sort of message. And that's something I need to work on, I think, going probably into next year, is how I kind of project that message out in a better way, because I've got lots of things I want to say. And so figuring out a good way to communicate that effectively without loads of waffle and babble, that's on my list to figure out for next year. So that was a really good interview. So go check that out if you're interested at all in doing Microsoft Teams development and you're not sure whether to go the pro code route or the no code route. And so, yeah, interesting. So that was that. And that was lots of fun to do. Other things that are happening. So the Microsoft Graph team have moved some of the Teams export APIs from beta to GA. So this is a big deal. If you rely on these calls, on these APIs for doing export workloads, there's a blog post that got published on the 1st of October to announce the general availability of the Microsoft Graph export API. So there aren't any new APIs in this. These are the ones that are currently in beta and will allow you to export all messages for all users or all messages for a specific user. So there's a couple of different ways. This blurb here goes through, what they are, how you can use them, and the types of things you can do, blah, 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 blah. There's some license capabilities, I think. So there's two options for using the API. I'm going to just read this out. One is designed for S and C scenarios, so security and compliance, and the other is designed for more all-purpose scenarios other than security and compliance. I'm going to read this out as well. Security and compliance scenarios require an E5 license, which provides a seeded capacity to use the API without consumption cost until the seeded capacity is reached. For other scenarios, there are no specific license requirements. The API is charged per message exported. So a couple of things to take away here. So there will be a charge on the export APIs. Either it's included in your, say, it's kind of covered in this E5 license until some seeded capacity. And if you're now, this is a little unclear because where does the E5 license? Is that on the user being exported or the user making the export requirement? Not quite sure. Each export API support up to 200 requests per second per app per tenant, 600 requests per second per application. There's some examples here to go through. These are similar to the ones that we talked about when this went into beta, so I won't kind of go over them again here. How to export them, blah, 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 blah. So license requiring. So this is interesting. So new seeded capacity as an E5 value for security and compliance applications. Seeded capacity is how much an app can use before having to pay usage fees. So there's two types. So seeded capacity applies to security and compliance, model equals A. So blah, 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 blah. There's no information here about what the seated capacity is, which is good. But I'll look further down and see if there is. There's a 6-month grace period to assign users with the proper license. So it does sound like it needs to go to the user being exported. The users will be required to have an appropriate E5 license to allow access to Teams messages, blah, 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 blah. There's no information here about charging or paying. So let's have a look at this one. And this is probably the one that has some of the detail in. So what I'm going to do, so here you go. Here are some charges. So $0.00075 per message. So very, very small amount per message. But obviously just be aware that every time you do that, there will be, lots and lots of messages. And so that might kind of go up quite quickly, depending on how big your tenant is and all the rest of it. Seeded capacity, the actual amount that is in doesn't seem to be listed anywhere. So I'm going to try and dig that out. This feels like a blog post I need to put together to really kind of go through this because, there's lots of information here that's become available on the charging model for this. So that's a blog post for me. I'll get on that. You're getting this information first as I'm seeing it, really. That's the point of these weekly updates. So you get the information first. And so you are now as knowledgeable as I am about this stuff. So the export APIs are now GA, but they are also chargeable. So I will condense those thoughts into a more concise blog post. But in the meantime, that's information you have up front now that you can take and do whatever you want with, or you can wait for the blog post. So interesting times for the export API. Next up, there's a What's New in Microsoft Teams blog post. So that happens more or less every month and is a roundup of new features that have happened in the month. Often there is a section in here for development and for extensibility. This time around there isn't. So there is no section in here. You can see all the things that have new features. There is actually no section in here this time around for development and extensibility. So I won't go through this because there's nothing specifically pertaining to Teams app development. Just letting you know that this it's another month, so there is another blog post here for What's New in Microsoft Teams. The Microsoft Teams Admin Center has been updated. It's a visual refresh to move some things around and reorganize the navigation and try and make it easier for you to find the things you're looking for. If you're like me as a developer, I don't use this every day. I'm an occasional user of the Teams Admin Center when I need to go and change settings or set something up. So hopefully this will help me because I'm often wandering through the admin center trying to find the thing I'm looking for. So there's a new users section. That seems like a good idea. And this blog post goes through all of the things that have changed in terms of what's moved around, what's new, what's gone, and what's been updated. So if you use the Teams Admin Center or you can't find what you're looking for, maybe check this blog post out because, maybe it's moved around. Finally, there's just one more thing to tell you about, I think, and that is a video I put out in the week all about South Coast Summit. So South Coast Summit is coming up really soon. It's coming up next week, I want to say, 15th, 16th of October. And so I did a video last week all about choosing sessions. So going through the agenda, which is big, by the way. And so you can go check that out. Here's the video. There's a lot of choice going on for South Coast Summit. So in this video, I kind of go through, you can see the agenda here, go through looking at different things. Oh, I'm going to give you an advert now. That wasn't intentional. But there's a lot going on at South Coast Summit. So it's important, I think, to have a look at the agenda ahead of time and figure out what it is you want to see. And that way you can kind of intentionally plan your trip. So check that video out if that's useful. I'm going to be doing another video this week all about South Coast Summit, a kind of know before you go style video, and then I'll be there obviously the week after, so there'll be plenty of videos about South Coast Summit. The other thing that's happening this week is UC Expo, big UK UC Expo happening in London. So I'm going to be down there for that. It's on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. I think I'm only going to be there on Thursday. So if you're around, come say hi. I'll try and do maybe some photos from there. Probably won't do a video from there. Unless I, see something specifically interesting to talk about. But I'll definitely be putting some photos on Twitter, so you check those out if that's interesting. Lots and lots of things happening this week. Lots of things happening in general. We've got, we've got Ignite to look forward to. We've got more conferencing happening. We've got. What are we looking further ahead? We've got, like I say, we've got South Coast Summit coming up next week. Looking further into November when we've got Ignite, we've also got the European Collaboration Summit. So there's lots of things happening towards the end of the year, and I'm sure there'll be lots more product announcements and Teams development announcements as well coming around the Ignite timeframe. So it's doesn't show any signs of slowing down this year. If anything, we've come off that kind of summer holiday hiatus and things are now back up to speed and kind of 100% forward motion. So exciting times and lots to talk about. All right, I'm going to go and try and figure out all that licensing for the export stuff. And whatever it is you're doing this week, I hope it's more exciting than that. I hope you have a good one, and I will talk to you again next time.